Hello, wonderful people. So today we're going to talk about something that I don't see very many people talking about, and that is how to finish tracks, how to consistently finish tracks. One of the things that I've developed over the years is kind of a cheat sheet. I've been making music for 25 years, and when I first started, and for probably the first 10 years, I didn't really have a developed workflow. I just would keep pounding on my tracks until I got something that was useful. I didn't really have any way that, would, I didn't have any workflow that I would follow. I started with Fruity Loops 1.2, I think is what it was, and I've used Reason. I've used FL Studio. I think I used that until around version 14 or 15. I've used Logic. I've used Cubase. You name it. I've probably used it at this point. The biggest thing about using all of those DAWs is they're all very similar. You can pretty much do the same thing in every one of those DAWs, but what I found is that I prefer using hardware. I prefer using something that I can touch, that can focus my energy and focus my attention. Clicking a mouse just didn't quite do it for me, so now I use the Force. Even with its flaws, it's still the best idea machine and brain that I've come across, including any of the DAWs that I've used. It's just what I prefer. And this workflow that I've developed works really well with both Ableton and with the Force, just very well. It's basically a clip-based workflow where you create patterns and then you put those patterns together into sections, and then you take those sections and put them into a song. But the cheat sheet is kind of a method that I follow pretty much any time I sit down to make music. The first thing that I do is I just define what it is that I'm doing. In this case, like what I'm going to show you here is I'm making a track, and this track is a track that was generated. The idea was generated by some of the samples that I was making in the last two videos. So I made a bunch of supersaw sounds, and I've turned those into various parts of a track. And here, I'll just kind of show you what this sounds like now. So just to start off with an example of what it is that I end up with after I've done all of the things that I'm going to show you or tell you about. So the first thing is, define what it is that you're doing. Are you making some samples? Are you practicing something? Are you trying to develop a new skill? Are you trying to learn an old technique? Are you just wanting to have some fun with some effects? You want to meditate? Are you trying to get a feeling out? Like, what is it that you're trying to do? And that will kind of give you an idea of how much time you can or should dedicate to what it is that you're doing. In the case of making a track, that probably takes the longest. So you can take the entire workflow that I have here, and it'll help you get through an entire track. You don't have to follow all of these steps. They can be kind of loosely, you can kind of go through these without having them be in order, but the order that I've developed kind of helps me get the track finished. So the second thing is, you kind of figure out how much time you're going to be putting into this. So once you figure out how much time it is, an hour, 2 hours, a week, 2 weeks, like it doesn't really matter how long it is. Just tell yourself how long it's going to take you, and then try to stick to that. With this track, it probably took me about a week and a half maybe to get it all finished, which, that's maybe 3 or 4 sessions sitting down for an hour and a half to 2 hours. So not a huge amount of time, but it's not trivial either. So once I figure out how much time, I take that and I kind of organize that into blocks loosely in my brain. I don't write it down or anything. I just say, okay, now I'm going to spend a couple hours, going through samples, for instance, and finding which drums I'm going to be using. For this one, I decided to use the 606 drums because the samples that I was making were from GX8P, so I wanted to use something that was an 80s, style sounding drum machine, so that it would match with the 80s style synth that I was using to sample. So I organize these sounds. I find what other sounds, or I sample whatever sounds, or I make sounds on my synthesizers, or find a preset, or whatever it is. I get all of my sounds and my idea all together so that I have all the sounds at my fingertips that I need. And each one of those is in tracks that I can select and then make clips. In the case of this track that I made, I used a bunch of pad sounds, and I used a couple of bass sounds, and I made a couple of like lead-ish type pad sounds, and so it's very 80s sounding, but with a little bit more of a modern flair. So once I got all of those patterns written, it can take a little bit of time to get something that works together, and so this step can take a little bit of time, writing all of the patterns. Just make sure that you write something that sounds good to you, or that is appropriate for the genre that you're making, or follows whatever rules you've set for yourself at the beginning here. Once you've got all your patterns set, you organize them into a grid. So I'll take the first section and put it on launch row 1, second section's on launch row 3, and I just make sure that everything is organized in launch rows so that when I record it into the arrangement window, I don't have to worry about where things are. I just hit the next launch row when it's time to move on to that section. Once I've created the arrangement and put everything into the arrangement window, I'll listen to it a couple of times, and I'll adjust some things in the arrangement, take some things out, maybe put some things in, do a little bit of extra automation. During the first couple of steps, I'll also be doing a little bit of mixing, taking things that need to be sent to a reverb, send it to a reverb, take things that are supposed to go to a common delay and send them to the delay, put some choruses, some, phasers, whatever, flangers, amp sims, whatever makes the sounds that I'm using sound better, gel better, be a more cohesive track. So I listen to it over and over. So that can get boring, and your ears can get a little bit tired. So you may want to, if you have enough time to work on your stuff, kind of save it at that point once you've got all of your arrangement in, and just give yourself a break, come back, because the next step is going to be mixing, and mixing takes the longest. It's the thing that is not as creative. It's just it's kind of the most boring, but one of the most important parts of what you're doing here. You want everything to sound good. You want it to gel. You want things to be as loud as they're supposed to be, but not too loud. You don't want things to be distorted. So when you come back, or if you don't stop and you just continue on to the next step, maybe you're moving that fast, and that's good. You get through the mixing, and you go through the mixer, and you listen to how everything is playing, and you're like, things sound good. Let's go to the next section. go through, you do your mix, and then either you record it to your DAW. If you're using a DAW-less setup like this, you record it into your DAW or into whatever your recording device is, and export it. Do whatever you need to get that song out there into a device that you can play it back on other things, and then you go and you take that and you listen to it on as many types of speaker systems as you possibly can. Find, a horrible computer speaker system. Find a Bluetooth speaker. Use that. Home stereo system. Use your car. Use your phone. Listen to it on anything that you can listen to. And you'll find that once you've done that, that you're probably not finished with your mixing. You probably have to go back and do it again, re-export it, do a little bit of extra mixing because it may not translate on all of those systems, and you may have to adjust things, and that can take a little bit of time. So you may have to do that step multiple times. But once you've done all of that, once you've made found your sounds, made your clips, put them into an arrangement, exported it, and mixed it, you're basically done. The only thing that you have to do now is to consider whether or not it's going to be mastered. And if it's going to be mastered, there's two ways you can do it. You can either do it yourself if you feel like your ears are good enough and your equipment is good enough. You can make a good master. Go ahead and do that. It may sound just as good as a professional. It may not. It's likely not going to sound as good as a full professional mastering engineer would do. But I've heard some professional mastering engineers that haven't made masters as good as I've sound some of mine. So it's recommended, if you don't feel like you have the ears or the gear, to send it to a mastering engineer. And if you are going to be doing that, you want to make sure that your export has enough headroom for the mastering engineer. Usually the engineer will tell you exactly what how much headroom they need. I usually leave anywhere from -8 to -6 dB of peak headroom for any engineer that I send a master to. So yeah, that's it. You send it to your master, and then you get it back, and at that point, it should sound good on just about any system. If you're just going to be playing it down at the local pub or playing it out at a DJ gig or whatever, it doesn't have to necessarily go through a mastering engineer. Just make sure that it's got the right sound, sounds good to you, sounds good on all of those systems, and is around 0 dB peak, and then you're done. You can pat yourself on the back. You finished a track, and it's complete. Now I'm going to go ahead and play another section of this track. The break. So yeah, this track is completely finished. There's many sections. It's about 7 minutes long or so. Like I said, it took me about a week and a half, a little bit more. I just set myself a timeline, did all the things, even made a couple of videos for you guys. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and put my timeline. I just wrote it kind of out, what I was going to be talking about today. So I'm going to put that down in the description. And if you guys feel that it's useful, go ahead and give me a thumbs up or a like, maybe even subscribe. Anyhow, finish your tracks. Go from having a bunch of folders of ideas to a folder full of finished tracks. it's easier than you think. And once you practice doing this over and over and over again, you get better and better at it. Pretty soon, you don't have to test on as many systems, and yeah, it it will make your life easier, and you'll be more productive. So anyway, I hope you're having a wonderful day. Hope you're making as much music as you can be, and may the force be with you.